Believing in a higher power does not limit possibilities.
Yep.
If you go on our human strengths, then we do have limitations. Yes, there are things that we have no idea we can do as humans. We often don't find that out until we're tested, until we're in trying times, right? And then we find out just how far we can push ourselves. But I believe that there are so much more that we can do through faith. You and I are kind of similar. You may even be more good-hearted than me. I feel like you. Well,
but in our longing hearts, we're all the same.
Mutual respect and
Yes.
a boundary might have been crossed
Yes.
that you, right?
That's
So
correct.
just an example
That's a
of,
good example.
it is a great example. I appreciate that for
Yes.
giving me the example to even work with.
Let's be the change we want to see.
I've never seen difference as negative. I've always been attracted to and intrigued by it. But we're looking for how are we similar? How are we the same? How can we all just get along?
We are links in a chain. Unimportant.
What's up, everybody? It's Justin.
Hey, and it's Dr. Lynne.
Let's go. It's popping. You already know what it is. We're here for another episode of Working It Out Across Generations, the show where we talk all things conflict. And with our conflict resolution background professionally, we try to give some tips for reconciliation. Got a really, really interesting topic today. But first, we want to plug you in on some stuff real quick.
Oh, yeah. We've been talking about our parenting workshop, and some of you have signed up.
Fire,
so the
bro.
rest of you want to sign up. If you are a parent, caregiver, guardian to tweens or teens, and
Yep.
there's just not a whole lot of talking going on from their end of things, there's more on your end, then you are going to want to be a part of this workshop. We are going to be teaching conflict resolution skills for opening up the conversation, for keeping things in a space where you all have an open mind, where it's not exploding or we're not shutting down, where you have the opportunity to address the kinds of tensions that are coming up, and that you're building trust and strengthening the relationship.
Yeah.
So hit the link on the screen or use the QR code, sign up, join us on May 28th, which is going to be an evening workshop, or May 31st, which will be in the afternoon.
100%. Dr. Lynn, what we talking about?
Oh my gosh. We are talking about faith versus formality. Formality, like putting in the work and not having to rely on maybe a higher power or something out within yourself.
Yeah.
That what you're looking to do is to build a better world, build a better life by working hard at it, versus people who really do believe in faith. I'm one of them, that faith plays a strong role in your life and that everything isn't about all the effort that you're putting in, that there's a higher power, that there's a higher purpose for you, a bigger plan, and that incorporating that into your life is what is going to change your life and change the world. And I think that this is huge because we have more and more people. Now, it's interesting, your generation, more people are going back to church or synagogue or temple, right? But there's also not a big belief in necessarily having that relationship, right? It's more of being an organized, not being an organized religion, right? It's more spiritual for people. But then there's also folks, a large amount of folks, who really just think, hey, if you work hard, you're going to get the things that you want to get in this life, and you're also going to be able to make a difference in the world. And they really aren't thinking that you gotta sit there, like, in prayer or find out what your higher purpose is. And I honestly have to say that I am I'm somebody who really believes that there is a higher purpose
Yeah.
for each and every one of us, and that faith is plays a very strong part in my life, and I've seen it play a very strong part in a lot of other people's lives, and so it's a good one. Where are you on this, folks?
Yeah.
Where's our audience on this topic? What rules your life? And I'm not saying that, look, people who can see in things like scripture where faith without works is dead. So the combination of believing, but also putting in the work, right? I'm a believer in that as well. But my faith, right, what I believe is that I got to take direction from a higher place, right? I answer to a higher authority, and not everybody responds like that. And I think that that's what makes the world and life and people so interesting, is all the different ways that people believe. What about you?
This is an interesting one for me. There's definitely a line here for me. I definitely feel like faith is a huge part of my life. I wouldn't say I grew up in the church, but I definitely, we went to church and, things like that. And we did the formal thing for a little bit, right? And I think that you would have a better timeline on this, but I feel like for my brother and I, we were kind of just like, this isn't the way of the formality of church isn't really the way that we feel like spiritually connected and or called, right? And I think that you did a great job of just saying, well, okay, well, that's not the only way that, you exercise your spirituality and those muscles, right? You can develop your own relationship with whatever higher power, right? For us, we're Christians, so Jesus Christ and God is big in our life, right? But I think, and I appreciate that. I think that's done a lot for my understanding for me of, what faith means in my life and, what higher power means in my life.
You've seen a lot. You've done a lot of praying. You've seen your parents
Yeah,
pray.
for sure.
Yeah,
We pray as a
know how to
family.
pray.
Know how to
Yes,
pray.
absolutely.
It's been something that has been such a, I guess, calling to home kind of thing for me. Especially so grateful to have been able to travel in the world and be in different environments and things like that. And so, sometimes you literally couldn't go home and couldn't feel at home, right? And so you got to create that for yourself. And I feel like faith was one of the areas that I was able to do that. However, I think just after life started happening and after I, went through a few losses and took some L's, right? But they were learning opportunities if you've watched our last episode. But I think when some of those things came up, the idea of, trusting in myself, the idea of that it's really all up to me, really just because those voices became louder in my mind. They were always there, but I feel like they became louder. And I feel recently it's been, I wouldn't say a struggle, but I've definitely been questioning a lot, just how much for me, in this new phase of my life, it's about to be my birthday in under 2 weeks, right? So in this next chapter, right, of course, faith is something I always want to come home to, but, I just want to make sure I exercise those muscles of, doing my everyday things that will, those small things that'll build up, right? We say small is all the time. And I think that that's real. And so there's a lot here for me as far as like, really the roles that faith and hard work play in my life. But what would you say for you? Like, I know, and many people actually watching this know too, and you've shared a little bit about, your faith already, but like, what role do you feel like faith plays in your life as well as hard work? Kind of like have like an everyday routine, trusting yourself. Like, where's that balance for you?
Oh, I'm straight up faith.
Okay.
I
All
straight
right.
up faith. But I've been through that road of testing, of questioning, and just trying to figure out what's going on
Yeah.
and whether or not my efforts alone can make things happen in my life that I want to happen.
Yeah.
And for me, what I have chosen is, and certainly through experience, have seen that faith is, I mean, I like the idea of not feeling so full of myself that I think that everything that I see is all there is. I do think that there are other planes and that there are things that we cannot see and that there is, and that there are things happening in those planes, on those planes, and that there is a higher power.
Yeah.
I've traveled all over the world, as you've said, and I've talked to people who believe that there's more than one higher power, that there's all kinds of deities, and I'm good with what people choose to believe. I know for myself and for your dad, we wanted you to be raised in a household that believes in God, believes in faith, believes in prayer, and believes in that as a family and as us as elders, like that's our responsibility. And having something that you can take with you, because I believe that our powers as humans are very limited compared to what really can be done. And we do not have that power to do all of the things that can be done. So, but I was not always here. I was not always in this place. Yeah. So when we talk, generationally, well, I guess I'm gonna talk generationally, or you want to do it? You want to go first?
Well, I think I'll go first. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you for saying that. And faith is just an interesting one for me because I feel like there's so many people out there who don't know how to pray that are teaching people how to pray. Like it's one of those things where I think that too much, like I've said on this show so many times, too much of anything is unhealthy, right? So I feel like I've been exposed to a lot of people who use faith as an opportunity to honestly like reinforce maybe that they're like not doing anything wrong, or that there's not anything that they have to like change or do different or whatever to get to whatever goal that they're praying for, right? Because it's one thing to pray for the result, right? Praying for the house, praying for the friends, praying for the whatever, for your family and stuff like that. And I think it's another thing to pray for the traits or the skills or even the lessons that will make you stronger to then be able to receive fully what you're asking for.
Right.
And so for me, it's just one of those things where, thankfully my parents are both people who, really like took their faith serious and take their faith serious, and they lead with it and they lead with their heart. So that's always, like I said, something that I can come home to. Like even you saying, I answer to a higher power. Like I don't feel like I like answer.
Okay.
To-
But what about people in your generation? What are you seeing? Are they praying? Are they talking about? Are they even talking about this?
I don't know how much we're talking about it, but there has been a significant jump in my generation in either going to church or picking up some sort of spiritual practice. There's been a significant jump, and I think that for us, it's because we're seeing just how much this world is dark and scary, and a lot of fear of the unknown for what's to come has been existing in us for a long time. Probably your generation as well, right? But just speaking from us, that's been a feeling for us for a long time, and I think that like I said, it's just such a beautiful thing to come home to come back to when things are dark, when things are tough, when you're feeling like like I'm not doing enough, right? I'm not keeping up with my everyday routine as best as possible, or I'm not seeing enough return on the investments that I'm putting in, time, energy, and maybe even money, right? I think that faith is a beautiful thing to come home to, and I think that my generation has done some real work to see it that way as well. I'm also exposed to a lot of people who don't believe in any sort of higher power and who, are proud of that too, and that's totally cool. And they are fully formality. I love how you said you're fully faith.
So what do they say? Like, I'm gonna
wake up. I'm at the same time, or just make that a mission, right? Like, a lot of us aren't morning people, right? So they'll try to make the mornings something that they excel at, right? So I'm gonna wake up at this time. I'm gonna make sure I eat right. I'm gonna make sure I exercise and move my body. I'm gonna make sure I, just try to move with as much openness and love as possible, and respect and things of that nature. And then just hope that is enough from the universe to say, this is someone who is, I guess, deserving of whatever fruitful life that looks like for them.
So
right?
it's universe, but isn't universe somewhat about faith? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely
I
definitely do think that. I definitely do think that, and I just think, that's why I feel like that's why this doesn't get talked about a lot, because people don't want to touch the religion piece too much, which makes total sense, right? But I feel like, I feel like that's even sometimes their motivator to stay in a formal thing, because they know that, there's layers to faith, there's layers to religion, there's layers to spirituality. And, I don't think a lot of people are ready at that time per se to do that work. That time could come again, obviously, but it's definitely not like talked about a lot. I don't think we're going to the bars and like talking, faith and Lord really. And stuff like that. Like we're not linking up and playing sports and working out and talking Jesus. But like, it's people, I think on the spiritual front, it's out there at least. And, that I feel like people are more open on that, I believe in this or whatever. But as far as like religion, I think people are even nervous to even say their religion sometimes, because I think my generation, lastly, we're kind of the ones, correct me if I'm wrong, who are championing the whole, there's no perfect Christian, there's no perfect anything, right? No perfect Muslim, whatever it is. And I think sometimes that can be an excuse to enable, bad behavior, or to just stunt your potential growth or approach to the areas that you got to grow in, because you're praying for a life where that doesn't exist, right? And so,
and you kind of walk in the line. You're not making a real definite choice.
Exactly, there. And you were the one who said, it's really like, you and another mentor of mine who said, watch what you're praying for. What are you praying for? What are you asking of the universe, right? Do you just want things, or do you want to become a better being, right? And so it's really, really interesting, but I think my generation is doing a great job of at least trying to find things that they can come home to in this very, very dark, scary, unknown world.
Yeah, and that I think in my generation growing up, there was never an explanation. You had to go to church.
Yeah.
No,
y'all didn't get explained nothing to y'all.
No.
Y'all were just told what to do all the time. That's so garbage.
Yeah, but that's how it was.
Jesus.
And it definitely wasn't an explanation or any excuses about going to church.
Yeah.
To church every Sunday. You pray. I never got instruction on prayer. I never got an understanding of God or what it was even about to be religious or to have faith. I mean, those two words were thrown around like candy. I'm like, have faith, just have faith. This a real, really
word.
gotta understand
That's
how
a fact.
to have faith.
That's a fact.
That you talked earlier about praying for things versus praying for skills or ways of being. One of the things I'm going to tell you about faith is that if you pray for patience, because you feel like I'm impatient, I really want to pray for, guess what? Guess how you get patient? You get presented with lots of opportunities that make you lose your patience. So then you have to learn to develop it, and you develop that through faith.
Yeah.
Never in my generation did we get explanations. We just talked about going to church and how we had to go and how, this one did this and this one did that. I didn't have conversations with my peers about God and about faith and about praying and about how to stay in faith when things got tough. I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of tough situations. I did not grow up in the world the way it is today. Yes, things were tough. Being black and was tough, and we were told those things, but not how to really grow a practice on a life of faith. So that had to come with my own experiences and my own questions and my own decisions about either I'm going to stick with this and really I don't want to say make it work. I just want to say understand it enough so that it works in my life, right? Or I'm just going to say, look, I'm going to chart my own path and there's nothing to stop me but me.
Yeah. And I so appreciate just the way that you and Dad approached the conversation around this with us, right? Because I feel like you guys were very big on just sharing from your own personal experiences. You're not like telling us how to pray. You're not like, you're modeling it, but like you're also telling us from your own experience, like what it's done for you and, why it means so much to you and things like that. So I think that has been honestly like more impactful than like going to a formal church in my life.
Yeah.
Because it really solidified that like, relationships can come in all different forms and that's okay. So I thought that was really, really cool, and I really, really appreciated that. And my brother prays. I'm not trying to put him out there, right? But like, we have our own things, right? We have our own ways of going about it, and it's different in our household, right? No one's a monolith, right? So really, really cool, really, really cool, and I appreciate the way that you went about it.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
because people try to push this shit on you.
Like I said, I didn't have it. I didn't have
people
it.
try to push, beliefs on you and stuff, and
that's right.
We got to let people, be where they are and come to things when they do, and
everybody
that's
doesn't
okay.
feel like that.
Yeah,
everybody feels
100%.
like you still got to push, right? It's my way or the
100%.
highway kind of thing. But I always marveled at or really just kind of got frustrated with God is everywhere. Well, if God is everywhere, why can't I stay home? Why do I have to go to church? But that's what I grew up with. Anyway.
That's real, bro.
Let's talk about, from my perspective, right? 3 reasons to rely on faith. Or if you really have a religious practice, right? 3 reasons to rely on that. Believing in a higher power. Okay, sorry. Number 1, y'all. Believing in a higher power does not limit possibilities. Yep. If you go on our human strengths, then we do have limitations. Yes, there are things that we have no idea we can do as humans. We often don't find that out until we're tested, until we're in trying times, right? And then we find out just how far we can push ourselves. But I believe that there are so much more that we can do through faith than through just human effort. And so just to think about, don't you want more possibilities?
Yeah.
Don't you want unlimitedness? I think that that's one of the reasons why you can and should develop a faith practice. But again, that's from me. But if you're looking for reasons why, because like I said, I never got reasons.
Yeah. You just had to do
Here's
it.
one.
You had to do it and find a reason.
That's the first for me.
Yeah, I would say to limit the whole doing it and finding a reason for yourself. I think that's a really good one. It doesn't limit opportunities. I think it brings more sometimes. So just to be open to that,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And number 2, what I like about it is large numbers of other people believing with you. Now, you could go to a building, right? Whatever your faith is, whatever your religious practice is, and there are other people there. And that's great because other people are praying for you. And, I've been in plenty of church services where, we're praying for sister so-and-so, or who needs prayer, come on up. And I love that kind of community, but you don't even need to do do that, right? Because all you need to do, look, the world now, we're connected in so many ways. You can find people online, right? In your own neighborhood, whatever, who have the same practice as you, and they can believe with you. You can talk about the things that you're going through and believing for, and so you have someone else that you don't just get to complain to, but that they actually stand with you.
I like that
you
a
know,
lot.
and say, let's pray together.
Yeah.
Let me pray for you. I've had people who will call me or text me, can you pray for me with this situation? Or people who go on social media, I've done it myself. You know, pray for this. I don't have to tell you what the situation is in my crew, right? I just say, just pray for me, right? Or pray for this family member. And I think that that's really powerful.
I think that's really powerful too. I think you know, my family has been a really big model for this, the power that's in community in this way. You know, I've definitely been in many situations where I needed a prayer, and I've had many people who some I didn't even know, right, who had no problem, you know, putting me in that light, right, and putting good energy into me. And I think that, you know, if you're open to it, sometimes you can even really feel like those things come through, right? And so I think that's a really solid reason, right? I'm all about community. I'm all about doing things together. I'm all about being about a team, right? And so this is a beautiful way to come together. It is.
And thank you. And I also think that it helps you to communicate, because I know some people, you know, we grew up with, don't put our business out in the street. And it's like,
true.
You got to get through that, past
True.
that, if you're going to have a faithful life, I believe, because there's power in numbers when we're all, I mean, I said I'm a Christian, so in the Christian faith, there's the scripture that says, when two or more are gathered together in my name, I'm in the midst, right? So it already talks about the power of more than just me being in prayer for myself and my family, that there's other people who will engage in that with you.
For sure.
And then 3, to me, anything that's less tangible creates stronger beliefs. If I can't, you know, like, it's easy for me to believe in this cup because it's right here in my hand. But to believe in something that's out there that might have or does have, in my belief, the power to change things, that's going to create a stronger belief, because I cannot see that. In many ways, I probably can't even prove it to you. I can tell you about my own experiences as my proof. And if you believe, then, or my experience is that the people who do believe in faith, it's easier for them to believe when I share the experience of why I know, right? My proof. But I do say that people that don't believe, they're just like, they're not impressed.
That's true.
They're
That
not
is true.
impressed. Yeah.
That is true. I think, you know, we are big on, you know, the things that are tangible and whatever, right? And I think that because of how big we are on that, that was a big driver of my family talking about all the things that you can't see and all the things that you can't feel and you can't, you know, touch and all of that. So I agree. You know, I agree. I think tangible isn't always the measure for result. So, you know, some of those things that, you know, where you got to look inward, right? Maybe there's just been a change in you. There's just been a difference in you or growth in you, but you don't even know how to pinpoint it. You don't even know how, you just know that it's there. I think that there's a lot more to that than just a natural change in the body. I think everything's connected. So, you know, there's definitely a part of the universe that's got a role in that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So that's me.
Yeah, and I think I want to talk about just some benefits to relying on consistent action over faith, right?
Okay.
As someone who is, like I said, about faith, and that's a part of my life, you know, I've really been wrestling with you know, just how much stake do I put into it, you know what I mean, and all of that. And so let's get into some of it, you know what I mean? I think the first thing that I discovered from you know, sitting with this for a little bit is one of the benefits, just external validation. You know what I mean? I think these are the tangible things that we're talking about, right? I think that external validation feels good for people. And I think it's also okay to say that in some regards, in some circumstances, in some areas of your life. And I don't think there's any shame in admitting that that feels good or that that's something you may need to a certain degree. And I think it's a good motivator to work to go get it. You know what I mean? And so one of the benefits I would say for sure is, people, telling you like good work. I can see it. Good work. I can sense it from you. Like, you put in the work. Good stuff. You know what I mean? I think that means a lot for people, and that's okay. That's okay to feel like, yeah, I could use some of that. You know what I mean? I could use just that being voiced a little bit more.
Okay. I think external validation does feel good, and I think that you putting in the work creates its own feeling, and especially if you see results, right?
Yeah.
I think that helps us to believe that we can do things.
Sure.
And so I think that there's nothing wrong with that you want to, I think we're all working and should be working toward bettering our lives and bettering society. So if you can really see the results of what you're doing, I think that that's pretty powerful for people.
For sure,
Yeah.
100%. And I think it's okay to say that,
Right.
to feel that, to say that, to
Right.
even need it to a certain degree, right? Of course, we don't want to take it too far, right? Nothing, should be taken too far, but I think that matters. Owning that part of us where that feels good,
Yeah.
and we want to hear it, and we feel we deserve it, especially when we put in the work. I think 100% that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that that's always, it's as much as you want to congratulate yourself, it's always nice when other people really notice. Somebody
Sure.
says, you've really changed. Keep going, keep it up, keep up the good work.
For sure.
Right? They don't always say keep up the good faith. They like keep up the good
Keep
work.
up the good work. I like that.
Yeah.
Damn, I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, keep the faith is a phrase, but that's not what
That's
they're
not
talking
what's
about.
being. Yeah, I don't even think that's
Somebody
even being
keep up the
said
good
the
work.
same.
Yeah, I don't
At the
either.
same rate. So
Yeah.
that's really, really interesting. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Next, I would say consistency drives confidence, right? So like you said, keep up the good work, right? I feel like, when you're really committed to just showing up for yourself, following up on your word, right? Whether that's showing up for someone else or, like I said, showing up for yourself. I think that the consistency of that really it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel stronger, makes you feel more confident approaching difficult things, difficult conversations. You're able to, similar to last episode, maybe lose a little bit easier or deal with the fact that you can lose a little bit better. I really think it's one of the hardest things to do, to drive confidence, especially when it's things that are challenging for you. So when you got to break a cycle, when you got to start, going to the gym more, whatever it is, right? But, keep it up, keep up the good work. And that consistency is just automatic to make you feel good. So
Yeah.
you did it. It's your work,
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's absolutely true, that you're going to gain the confidence, you're going to believe in yourself, you're going to keep getting up and doing,
Yep.
right? It's a great motivator. Consistency is a great motivator.
For sure.
It just is.
For sure.
And you keep going because life is definitely unpredictable. No matter how many times people can tell you if you do this and you do that, then these are the predictable results. Life is unpredictable. So if you meet life by consistency, then the confidence to make it is going to be so much easier for you to have.
Yeah, I love it. And lastly, I would just say you can count on you. You know what I mean? When all hell breaks loose, when you lose that job or that relationship ends or whatever's going on, right? And things are just tough, right? I think that, if you're doing the work to show up for yourself, you're doing the work. You know what I mean? And I want to be clear, as someone who, has faith and believes in God and the universe, you know what I mean? There's a role there. You were put in that situation. When we meet people, there's so many people in the world, we can't meet everybody. So there's a reason you're meeting people for when you're meeting them, right? And so I think when you do the work and you keep doing it, especially when things are hard, you really just feel a stronger trust in yourself to just be there for you, to show up for you, to, you know, love yourself, to respect yourself, to always put you first, right? And it's not that, you know, you become selfish in that way. You can, right? But I believe that, you know, there's a level of selfishness that we need in order to be able to go feed and help and speak life into other people. We got to have that for ourselves too. And so I think that at the end of the day, when all hell breaks loose, if you're able to still get at it, get up and get to work, yes, it's the universe putting you in that situation for a reason, but it's you doing the work. And I feel like that's also a big piece that I've been wrestling with as far as my faith and as far as, you know, whatever, because yes, I've absolutely been put in situations to become stronger, right? But I did the work. I'm here. I did the work. I'm here. I chose to keep myself here and get up and do the work. So just honoring the piece of you that's in the work that we're talking about, I think that, you know, it's a beautiful way to just remember that you can count on you. So.
I think this is an interesting one for me because I think this is probably the one place that I have trouble with the, maybe the word is doctrine or the way that people talk about this particular piece.
Okay.
And that is that I do believe that we need to give ourselves credit for things that we do, and that it isn't only to the higher power. I believe that can be shared. I don't know how to have good self-esteem if you don't believe in yourself and don't give yourself credit for doing something. If you give
100%.
all of your credit away,
100%.
how do you feel good about you? And I know that the people that have probably come for me on this, and you know, I said I'm a Christian, which I am fully, wholeheartedly, but this is the one place.
Yeah.
This is the one. And
I
it
hear
is,
that.
and
I
you
hear
know,
that.
people may say it's ego. I don't think it's
No, I don't
ego.
think so.
I think it's really how do you do what you do, especially when it's hard, without giving yourself some credit for doing it. And I think it makes us, I don't want to say uneven, unbalanced when we can only say, you know, all the glory to the higher power, none to me. I got questions about that. I got questions about that. So I'm gonna say this one, I'm glad you brought it up.
For sure.
It gives me the opportunity to put it out there, to think about it. But I think that's what the faith life is about, is that there are constantly questions and struggles, and some things that you just say, I'm gonna just leave it, right? And I believe I'll get answers to it somewhere along the line. And this one I've yet to get answers to.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave that there
I
for
hear
those
that.
who understand what it is that I'm talking about with this one. Yeah, but it's an interesting one. I think this whole topic is very interesting because I think it's interesting that the numbers are rising of people going to or turning to some kind of spirituality. I mean, look at the state of the world. If we truly thought it was just
For sure.
in our own power,
For sure.
then maybe what we'd see is people working even more or out there really trying to help people to feel better about themselves and their accomplishments. I see, it's interesting, when you were talking about self-help, but like the motivational speakers, there are some of them that really only, to me, speak about what's in your power. Right? And you're just not working hard enough. You're giving up too soon. You let that particular crisis get the best of you. You punked out. You quit. And that just leaves no room, right, for anything else beyond yourself. So I love, and you've even talked about this, just like your generation, you've said to me, your generation left this mess for us, and we have to clean this up. So looking at that, I'm not surprised that your generation, even millennials as
Yeah.
well, are looking at spirituality more, because how do you clean this mess up? Right?
And then still love yourself, love each other, have faith, all the, all the things, right? How do you do all those things while you're cleaning up literal crap and crap that you didn't even put there?
Right.
So that is an interesting point. It is an interesting point.
Yeah.
And,
But I think that we should be asking these questions,
sure,
and we should
100%.
be having these conversations. But as conversations, because that's one piece that tends to go along with this, is people get fierce, especially when you question faith.
Yeah. That gets like really,
People
really,
get
really, yeah.
really
Really
fierce about it, and we are made up of all kinds of people on this earth. I
sure.
am not a believer that there's only one way. I'm just not.
No.
Again, you can come for me if you want to. Don't care. I don't believe that. I believe that there are many people with many different practices that are doing really incredibly good, kind, beautiful things in the world, and they don't need to change to agree with what I do.
100%. And we shouldn't want to change people. Let them be who they are and let them believe in what they believe in, and try to find the beauty in that, because there's beauty there.
As long as they're doing good in the world. I mean, if we want people to want to change if they're really
sure.
doing bad.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Doing harm.
For sure. Don't let a murderer be a murderer. Like, for sure.
Right.
I'm well
But
aware.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're talking about there. So,
And that's why we were hesitant doing this one, because we were like, we don't want to step on no toes. You know what I mean? But I think that's why that's why storytelling is just so important, and in doing anything like this, being on a stage, even just one-on-one with people. Tell your own experiences. And let people do with that what they will.
yeah. Well, we want to hear about this one. We want to hear about it. So
Yeah.
you can email us at Working It Out Across the Generations at e360tvlive.com. You can email us what you think, and make it kind, or at least don't take us over the rails. But hey, we can deal with whatever the conversation is, as long as you're expressing an opinion and not something offensive to us.
Yeah, keep it cute. This show ain't big yet, so I'm gonna respond accordingly to whatever you say to me. So keep it cute, keep it classy, right? But guys, thank you so much for joining. Seriously,
Yeah.
You know what we say: every like, every follow, every subscription, every piece of engagement truly means the world. We are about small is all. We are trying to build to something bigger than us, and you help us do that. So check us out on Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV. You can check us out on YouTube at Working It Out TV show. And you also can check us out soon on Spotify. We're going to be getting some audio rights there to put our show out on audio on Spotify. So please check us out there as well. Watch us on your TV. We're also on e360tv.com, Trajectory channel. And you know what we say about conflict, guys. Conflict is here to teach you something about yourself. So go out there and find out what that is. I'm Justin.
I'm Dr. Lynne, and don't forget to register, sign up for our parent workshop, use the QR code or the link. We really want to see you there.
Yeah, it's going to be some good stuff, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.